Knoxville pastor Chris Bice agrees.
When you blame all your problems on some minority group, then everyone else is exonerated. We exonerate ourselves. We don't have to look at ourselves to see what sort of ways we contribute to the problems of the world. We don't have to examine ourselves to see what we're doing that is helping to create the problems that we're so concerned about.
In other words, Bice says, angry talk radio rhetoric simply sets up scapegoats for society's problems. And ever since Jim David Adkison walked into his church and opened fire, he can't help but wonder whether that might lead to more violence.
I just think a lot of people are hurling insults from the safety of television studios, the safety of radio studios, the safety of cyberspace, which they would not throw if they had to stand right next to a person and look in their face and say the same thing. And so that's a void in our community, the chance to be in the same room and to have these exchanges and remember the humanity of the person on the other side.
That report aired on the Journal on September 12, 2008. Earlier this year, when Jim David Adkison was sentenced to life behind bars, he released what he called a manifesto, a 4-page statement he wrote before his shooting spree. It was a manifesto, all right, spewing hate like fire and lava exploding from a volcano. This was a hate crime, he wrote. I hate the damn left-wing liberals. There's a vast left-wing conspiracy in this country, and these liberals are working together to attack every decent and honorable institution in the nation, trying to turn this country into a communist state. Among the targets of his malice, the Democratic National Committee for running such a radical leftist candidate, Osama Hussein Obama. Yo mama, no experience, no brains, a joke, dangerous to America. Liberals, Adkison went on, are evil like termites, millions of them. Each little bite contributes to the downfall of this great nation. He longed to exterminate the traitors one by one. Who I wanted to kill, he wrote, was every Democrat in the Senate and House. The 100 people in Bernard Goldberg's book, full disclosure, I'm one of the 100. But Adkison lamented, these people were inaccessible to me. I couldn't get to the generals and high-ranking officers of the Marxist movement, so I went after the foot soldiers, the chicken liberals that vote in these traitorous people. And that's how Adkison decided on his victims. He would go after the foot soldiers, the congregation in the church he described as a den of un-American vipers. He had a patriotic imperative for anyone who read or heard his manifesto. Do something for your country before you go. Go kill liberals. Do I think any conservative commentator wished for what happened in Knoxville last year? Or to Dr. George Tiller in Wichita 2 months ago? Not for a minute. The killer who pulled the trigger is the guilty party. But do I wish the vendors of venom and their sponsors would think harder about how angry words become accomplices of foul deeds? Yes, I do, most certainly, especially as the words and crazy theories of militias and other elements of the lunatic fringe are given even a shred of credibility by their repetition in the conspicuous conservative media. God only knows the price we paid when we turned political opponents to be debated into mortal enemies to be eliminated. Now, when some of those who shout through the megaphone of right-wing radio hear a critique like this, they immediately throw a fit. They claim that people like me are calling for a return to the fairness doctrine. Some of you remember the fairness doctrine, adopted 60 years ago by the Federal Communications Commission. It said that opposing points of view had to be presented on radio or TV in a way that was honest, equitable, and balanced. If not, said the FCC, a station could lose its license. Ronald Reagan abolished the doctrine in 1987, but mention it today, and the Rush Limbaughs of the world still scream like martyrs being stretched on the rack. These people earn millions inciting riots in the public mind. If they were required to be fair, they would soon be penniless, out on the street, cup in hand. So when we first telecast our report on the killings in Knoxville last year, some of them threw a tantrum, as if our criticism of their malicious rhetoric was a call for government censorship. Now, it's true that in this current climate of mean speak, some members of Congress and others have called for reinstating the fairness doctrine. But I'm not one of them. The doctrine is a throwback to a time when there were a lot fewer ways to hear news and opinion than there are in today's universe of websites, blogs, and tweets. Just last week, the two new commissioners to the FCC expressed their strong opposition to its restoration. The new FCC chairman is opposed too. Conservatives, nonetheless, waved the fallacious threat of its return as a bloody flag, lofted above the straw men they evoked to roil the faithful and keep the cash registers ringing. So, let me say it again. The First Amendment protection of a free press extends to the savage nation as surely as it does to the Nation magazine. Anyway, you can't coerce taste. Fairness is not a doctrine to be enforced, but a choice to be made, a responsibility to be honored. That's it for this week, but the Journal continues at our website. Log on to pbs.org and click on Bill Moyers' Journal, where you can find out more about the history of talk radio and free speech and follow the debate on health care reform. I'm Bill Moyers. See you next time.